In the early 1980s, Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney were the two biggest stars on the planet. McCartney was pop music royalty, a founding member of the Beatles who had already changed the world. Jackson was the young, unstoppable phenomenon riding the massive wave of the Thriller album. When they teamed up to record hit songs like The Girl Is Mine and Say, 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 the media portrayed it as a beautiful passing of the torch. They were constantly photographed laughing, joking, and hanging out. To the public, it was the ultimate musical friendship. But behind the scenes, this friendship was about to trigger the most ruthless billion-dollar business betrayal. In the history of the music industry, the betrayal started with a piece of friendly advice. In 1981, Michael Jackson was staying at Paul McCartney's estate in London. After dinner, McCartney pulled out a thick, leather-bound binder and handed it to the 23-year-old Jackson. The binder contained a massive list of songs that McCartney legally owned. He didn't just own his own music. He had been buying up the publishing rights to other artists, including rock and roll legend Buddy Holly. McCartney explained a brutal truth about the music industry. The real money isn't in selling records or going on tour. The real generational wealth is in publishing rights. When you own the publishing, you get paid every single time a song is played on the radio, used in a commercial, or covered by another artist. Michael Jackson was absolutely fascinated. He looked at the binder, looked at McCartney, and smiled. He told Paul, "Someday, I'm going to own your songs." McCartney laughed out loud. He thought it was a joke. He patted the young pop star on the back and said, "Great joke, Michael." But Jackson wasn't joking. He had just been handed the blueprint to building a financial empire, and he was quietly instructing his ruthless music lawyer, John Branca, to start buying up publishing catalogs behind the scenes. Jackson started small, buying the rights to classic hits like Run Around Sue. He was practicing for the main event. He was waiting for the biggest prize in music history to hit the open market. In 1984, the crown jewel of the music industry went up for sale. It was a publishing company called ATV Music. ATV owned around 4,000 songs, but the only ones that mattered were the 250 songs written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. It included Hey Jude, Yesterday, and Let It Be. When the Beatles originally signed their record deals in the 1960s, they had terrible lawyers and lost the publishing rights to their own music. For decades, McCartney had watched other people get rich off his genius. Now, the catalog was finally for sale. McCartney desperately wanted his songs back, but the asking price was astronomical, $40 million. McCartney reached out to Yoko Ono, John Lennon's widow, hoping they could split the cost and buy the catalog together for $20 million each. But Yoko Ono thought the price was too high and refused to pay it, hoping they could negotiate a discount. While McCartney and Ono hesitated, Michael Jackson struck. He told his lawyer, John Branca, to do whatever it takes to win the auction. Branca entered a fierce bidding war against massive corporate entities like Virgin Records and real estate tycoons. The negotiations dragged on for 10 brutal months. Every time the price went up, Jackson authorized his team to match it. In August 1985, the hammer finally fell. Michael Jackson outbid everyone, purchasing the entire ATV Music catalog for $47.5 million. He bought it in cash. When Paul McCartney found out, he was completely devastated. The 27-year-old kid he had mentored, the kid he had invited into his home and taught the secrets of the music business, had just bought his life's work right out from under him. McCartney publicly stated that he felt completely betrayed, saying it was dodgy to do something like that to someone you're friends with. Jackson's response was ice cold. He simply said, "Paul, it's just business. You taught me the business." The friendship was instantly, permanently destroyed. They never recorded together again. But the humiliation for McCartney was just beginning. Because Michael Jackson now owned the publishing rights, every time Paul McCartney went on tour and played Hey Jude or Yesterday in front of a stadium crowd, McCartney legally had to pay Michael Jackson a licensing fee. Jackson was making millions of dollars off McCartney's own live performances. To add insult to injury, Jackson started licensing classic Beatles songs to sell sneakers and corporate advertisements, something the Beatles had always fiercely refused to do. Jackson proved that in the music business, loyalty means absolutely nothing when a multi-million-dollar asset is on the line. Michael Jackson's $47.5 million purchase is widely considered the greatest financial investment in the history of the entertainment industry. A decade later, in 1995, Jackson merged his ATV catalog with Sony Music, creating Sony ATV Music Publishing. Jackson received an upfront payment of $115 million just for agreeing to the merger, while still retaining a 50% stake in the new company. Over the next 2 decades, that catalog grew to include millions of songs, generating hundreds of millions in revenue every single year. Long after his death, Jackson's estate eventually sold his remaining stake in the company back to Sony for $750 million. The joke Michael made at Paul McCartney's dinner table ultimately built a billion-dollar empire.